So the thing is, artists have to have convictions. You know, when you don't have convictions, you're not being an authentic artist. What does that really make you? I mean, that's just kind of fake to me. Um, I don't think that's real art, you know? So, and here's the reason is because I think artists, when they go through their craft and they create and they build something, something happens
Yeah.
when you discover some truth in your art. And it doesn't happen right away. Like, no, it takes some doing. But when you hear an inauthentic propagandistic story, you know, you know it deep down. This is not. I mean, this is like stupid stuff. Like, this is not stuff for thinking people, right? And so you kind of start to feel that in your bones. And it's not enough, though, to just make that realization. What you need to do is make a statement in the opposition. And this is something artists do best, frankly, I think.
Yeah.
Artists make statements in the opposition. You know, who was that prophet who, oh, they did something, they created something, didn't they? I think they, it's funny, why would I bring up this example when I don't even remember what it was? It's kind of annoying. But there's this prophet, and prophets often, people don't realize this, but often prophets are like artists. They were
Yeah.
doing kind of making these strange social messages. Um,
Yeah.
like, was it Hosea who married the prostitute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's a prophet who I don't think the dude set out to want to marry a prostitute. Like, that's just not something you set out to
Yeah.
want to do. Uh, God literally told him to marry a prostitute. He said, "Nope, you're
Hmm.
going to marry this woman, and you're going to even have children by her, and you're going to be faithful to her." Right?
Right.
Because why? Because Hosea's very life was meant to be an example of what it looks like between God and his people Israel. God was making a
Yeah.
statement that Israel is like a whore.
Yeah.
Israel is acting like a prostitute,
Yeah.
whoring after other gods, right? And so, you know, in their society, it was kind of shameful to be doing that.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's still taboo to this day in many places to, you know, have an unfaithful marriage and just kind of put up with it. That's called cuckoldry. And so, you know, but uh, Hosea was a good man. And
Hmm.
Hosea um, bought onto God's program. And he knew he was up for some pain. And he knew his duty was to suffer for God.
Yeah.
So many of us also have bought into some pain and suffering. And just because you have a tough marriage or you have a tough situation in your family or something, it does not mean it was not of God,
Hmm.
right? There are great lessons in all of this.
Yeah.
And so Hosea, though, wasn't just doing this for himself or for his own lessons. No. The point was that he was doing this so other people could see it. Other people, they needed to see what it looks like when, you know, there's a relationship that looks pretty um, unfaithful and unclean and unbecoming and not very attractive, right? It's just not very attractive.
Yeah. God was inviting Hosea to
Partake.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, like suffer with him and experience,
Wow.
like empathize with God.
Wow.
And I like what you're saying, like where you're taking this idea of like what were people thinking as they watched this unfold, because he was God's prophet.
Right.
So, everybody knew that he was God's prophet, that
Yeah.
he would stand up and he would talk and he would be like the word of the Lord, and everyone would kind of listen. What was that like to watch him live that life, and how were people reacting? That was some serious shock art there.
Yes, it is like a shock performance art.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. He gave his life for it. He wasn't joking around. It wasn't some installation piece, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't some momentary experience you get for 5 minutes and then you go, oh, that was interesting. Mm-hmm. He gave his life for that installation piece.
Yeah.
Right? So God also knew that this would be a lifelong journey. So God knows that his people are going to be going through a hard time for a while. And so this is a lesson that they all need to hear for a while. And so, that's why Hosea was needed for all that time to be making that statement. Mm-hmm. And so these are statements that God can make through brave people.
Yeah.
Brave people who are willing to suffer for what's right. So is it so much suffering to make a film? Sometimes. Is it so much suffering to write a book? Yeah, sometimes. It's not as bad as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But in some ways, it's just as bad because this could be your whole life, like Hosea, right? You are giving of yourself very deeply. So you have to give much of yourself, much of your time, possibly all of your money, possibly everything you have to fight this fight.
Yeah.
And many people are going to scoff at that. And they will, but the funny thing is these same people will fight at people who really do give their, will scoff at people who really actually give their lives. That's how bad people have become. They don't care. And the reason is because social media has made them separated from the reality of how bad things are. They've started to believe it doesn't matter. It's very disturbing. If this person had lived on your block or something, it might affect you a tad bit more. People have become that cold to their neighbor, to their country, to their communities. We're in the situation where there's going to be a lot of suffering, chances are, because we're dealing with people who lack the courage to stand up against wrong things.